All right, perfect. So we are live. Let me just do a sound check on mobile checker.
Yeah.
All right, we are live. So I'm just sharing it.
Okay.
In the meanwhile, let our audience join in so that we can, entertain them and we can really bring the learning that we have for them today. All right. So in the meanwhile, I'm sharing a Shekhar. Would you love to let us audience know what this U-turn show is all about? In the meanwhile, I'll just share the link with everybody. So before we get
Okay.
started with the episode, let's just share
Mm,
briefly with them, what this show is all about, because some of them will be new, joining our
mm,
YouTube maybe for the first time. So it would be a
mm.
great idea for them to, understand what this channel and this show is all about. So Shekhar, just give them a quick overview about it.
Oh, yeah. The U-turn is all about learning each and every concept of the personal development literature. But in this episode, something different happens. Towards the end of the show, or maybe a little bit before that, we actually give you the practical exercises to do to put the laws into motion. You just don't keep on reading about the laws over and over again. That's a good habit. We encourage you to keep on reading it over and over again. But in the U-turn, we actually show you how to take the U-turn in your life to actually go and build the dreams that you want. There's a particular way that you need to do everything to go and reach your goals. And for that, right now, you need to take a U-turn and you need to do things differently. And that's exactly what we teach in every episode that we host on YouTube Live every Thursday. In this episode of the U-turn, for example, we will be talking about the law of forgiveness. Today, we will be seeing how after understanding the law of forgiveness, we will take a U turn in our life and actually start applying the law of forgiveness by doing and thinking those things which we never did before. That's exactly what the U turn is all about, changing your habits, your behaviors based upon education. So, we will try to pick up one topic from the personal development literature each and every week. Supreet and I will be talking about it. We will be discussing it. You can, if you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment section below. We will answer it. So this is exactly how we are building a community that is dedicated to taking U-turns in their life every single week to make sure that they change their habits and behaviors and install new habits and behavior in their mind, which will ultimately lead them to the fulfillment of their wish. That's exactly what we aim to do in every episode of the U-turn.
Exactly, Shekhar, and the U-turn, as you pointed out, and I'm really, really grateful and really happy still, because 3 weeks ago, this
Mm,
was the same time, when this idea flashed in my mind when we was conducting a coaching hours. And I just immediately shared with that with you that we're going to do, a new show. We're going to start it. And I'm
yeah.
so happy the way it is going out so far because I believe this U-turn show that we're doing here on YouTube, it is a very conducive environment for anyone and everyone. It doesn't matter wherever that person is in the world. You
Yeah.
can come here, join us every single week, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and you will be assured that you get the information that is going to help you to grow, to become better, grow in awareness, grow in personality, and to become a better human being, which ultimately is going to give the success that you desire in your life. We are going to talk about the law of forgiveness today, but before we talk about the law of forgiveness, let me share a few points with you that why it is important for you to understand law of forgiveness. But what is law of forgiveness? We will come into later on. The definition. I'll share a cool definition with you that I have in few minutes from now. But I have some questions that I want to share with you. And I want you to not just listen to those questions, but seriously think about those questions. All right. Now, think about a situation in your life, when someone did something to you or said something to you and you felt like horribly bad about it. Like somebody might cheated you in a relationship or in a business or in a situation where someone has just done something which according to you was not a fair thing. How was you feeling at that time? And I know some of you are going to say that it felt so bad, and for how long you have sustained that feeling. I see people who sustain that, feeling of frustration, feeling of bad emotion for the rest of their whole life. And you know what happened? That bad feeling ultimately suppressed into their own mind and caused them a lot more problems than it might have caused to the person who has done that bad thing or who has said that bad thing. And Shekhar, you might have heard people saying that that person has done so much bad to me and he's still having a great life. And people don't think about it another way that if that person has done something bad to you, why don't you just let it go? And why people don't let it go? And it is my opinion, it is my understanding that there is a factor that called as self ego that comes in the way. What do you think about that, Shaker? Let's talk a minute or so about it. Like
Yeah,
why people keep that to themselves. If somebody has done a bad thing, what do you think about that?
it actually comes from self ego, and it is a destructive emotion, and self ego is not in accord with the law of thinking. I will be going into two different topics today before I will be talking about the law of forgiveness, and the two topics are sinful thoughts and the emotion of guilt, and how we must replace them, remove them, to be able to start to apply the law of forgiveness in our life. So self ego is again one of those things. It's like where we see everything, where we want to control all the situation. That person should be coming and saying sorry to me. That person hurt me. She did this to me. He that did to me. And in all of this, plethora of excuses that we give to ourselves, we do not realize that the time that we are giving to the emotion that he did something wrong to me and she did something wrong to me, or I did something wrong, I seek forgiveness, all these things, we do not realize that we are actually not working with the law of forgiveness. There is a certain way that the impersonal law intends us to work with forgiveness, in which the only thing that we need to do is just to forgive, and in the process we will be forgiven by the law. So we don't have to look at other people's businesses. Why is that person, that person hurt me, that person cheated on me, and look at him today, he's successful, he used my ideas and he went ahead. Forgive everything, let everything go, use the law of non-resistance to replace these thoughts with new and beautiful thoughts. And that can only happen when you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and carry that feeling with you throughout the day. It's a habit. You need to build a habit. Only in this habit will you be able to achieve your goals. And if there's a hindrance, look at the hindrance that is that's preventing you from reaching your goal. There is some resistance being caused. You can go back to the last episode, the first episode of the U-turn, and you can learn about the law of non-resistance and how you can apply it in your thinking to apply the law of forgiveness that we are going to talk about and touch upon today. So self
Absolutely.
ego, yes, it is a bad thing. It is. It's a blockage. It's causing resistance.
Exactly. And the way and the moment you was going through it, you were explaining, how we explained that in certain things in the last two sessions. I believe that, the forgiveness. First of all, let us understand the fact it is absolutely not at all easy thing. Just like any other habit, it takes time to develop. But from the concept we are going to teach you today, you have to understand why you have to forgive. People get caught up so much in the idea that how to do it that they don't deal with the part of their mind that actually brings the shift. That is a subconscious mind. If people, keep on thinking about how to do it, how to do it, how to do it, all the time they're focusing on to find the best strategy to forgive. And in order to find the best strategy, they never ever understood that why they need to forgive. And that's what you're going to understand tonight, that why we need to forgive. Now, I'm going to share two definitions here with you because, whenever we do these sessions, we don't just wake up and do these sessions in front of you. We study them a lot for the whole week. We apply them a lot for the whole week. And then we share with you from our experience and from the knowledge we have gathered that what it really takes to apply that lesson in your life. Now, I have two definitions here about forgiveness. And the first one is coming from the master Bob Proctor. We all love him. He's our great mentor. And he said, forgiveness is to let go completely, abandon. Now, some people are going to say, oh, that doesn't work. It's so simple. How we can abandon? This is where, my dear friend, you have to understand the second definition that is coming from a good friend of Bob Proctor, and Bob Proctor called her, the her spiritual guru. And she said, her name is Mary Morrissey, and she said, forgiveness. Now pay attention. If you haven't heard or if you haven't paid attention to the previous part of this show right now, this is the part that you have to start focusing on and then focus till the end. She said, forgiveness is a shift in perception. In other words, you have to change the way you're thinking about that person. You have to change the way you're feeling about that situation. And then ultimately, you have to change your action towards that situation. That means you respond and you do not react. Shift in perception that removes the block in my awareness of love's presence. We don't forgive when we feel that there are limited things outside, when we feel that why that person did that. At the same time, if you only understand by the law of supply that there is abundance supply available for you, you no longer have to fret and worry. That we also understand the law of thinking. So what you have to do is change your perception towards a person, change your perception toward a situation. And changing a perception is not an easy job. We will cover that at the end part of the session. Now, I would love to give the control to Shekhar to take you through what Raymond Hollivan has shared with us in this powerful book, Working with the Law. And stay tuned till the end of the session because we have some great, gifts for you. Although Shekhar may not also aware about it because I haven't told Shekhar about even yet, but we'll let you know in the later part of the session. So, Shekhar, over to you, the law of forgiveness. Let everybody understand what does that mean. The stage is all yours now.
Okay, thank you, Sukhvi. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Today, we will be talking about the law of forgiveness in the second episode of our brand new show, The U Turn. We will be understanding two concepts before we go into what the law of forgiveness actually says. Now, the two things that we need to understand are sinful thoughts and the emotion of guilt. To understand sinful thoughts and which thoughts are sinful, we must understand the real meaning of sin. We are going to have a look at the meaning of sin. We are going to see from the definition of sin what are the thoughts inside a consciousness that are sinful thoughts. These are the thoughts that are not letting us forgive other people. And then we are going to have a look at the emotion of guilt, and we will see how the emotion of guilt is actually preventing us from seeking forgiveness from others. And then, after understanding two of these small topics about forgiveness, we are going to go into the law of forgiveness and see how we can apply the law of forgiveness in our daily lives. And towards the end, I'm going to give you two suggestions, two exercises that you can do every day from tomorrow morning onwards. You can prep yourself tonight. And from tomorrow morning onwards, right after you write your affirmations in the morning, the first thing that you do, you can practice forgiveness from tomorrow morning onwards if you will follow the two suggestions that I'm going to give you towards the end of my presentation. So, to begin with, let us understand what are sinful thoughts by first understanding the meaning of sin. In fact, the real meaning of sin. The author Raymond Holliwell teaches us those who study the mental processes find that all the conditions of the body are created or caused by the mind. It is known that creation in any and every form is governed by and subject to a law. Hence, when one misuses, inverts, or violates a law, this mistake is called a sin. A sin is a mistake, a misunderstanding, and a misjudgment. A mistake is falling short of or disobeying the law, whether that law be mechanical or spiritual. Correction is the only method of adjustment or of appeasing the law. So, if we want to work with the law, be it any law, today let us focus on the law of forgiveness. But this goes for each and every law that we have been discussing so far. So, we have to understand that the conditions of our body are created and caused by our mind. And the second thing that we need to understand is that creation, everything that you see around you, is governed by and is subject to a law. And this law does not work with sinful thoughts. It produces sinful effects in your reality if you work with sinful thoughts. So, what is a sin? A sin is a misuse, an inversion, or violation of the law. So, if we have to stop misusing, inverting, or violating the law, we need to clearly understand what the law really is. Okay. And a sin is, again, the author explains, it's a mistake, it's a misunderstanding, it's a misjudgment of the law. And correction is the only way out to work in harmony with the law. So, talking about the law of forgiveness, how do we correct our sinful thoughts and we replace those sinful thoughts with beautiful thoughts? What do we need to do to practice the law of forgiveness? The author teaches us forgiveness of sin means that we must forgive, forsake, and forget. Three things. I repeat: forgive, forsake, forget. That thought or person or condition which prompted the sin. In a later part, Raymond Holliwell says to abandon or release the wrong thoughts or idea is to be absolved and liberated. Look at that, liberated from its sinful effects, absolved and liberated from the sinful effects of the sinful thoughts. We need to forgive, forsake, and forget the sinful thoughts. Forgiveness is the first requirement which permits man to be in harmony with the law of his being. The very law of your existence, the very law of your being, it has a prerequisite. It has a first requirement, and the first requirement is forgiveness. So, this gives you the reason why you need to practice the law of forgiveness. It is required by the very law of your being. Now, we need to forgive, forsake, and forget the thought, person, or condition which prompted the sin. We have to abandon and release the wrong thoughts or idea if they are to be absolved and liberated. Now, again, the author goes further and says, every man, when he conceives an idea that is wrong, destructive, or evil, these are the sinful thoughts, and dwells upon it, eventually causes it to become a fact. How? You understand that through the law of assumption. Whether you're thinking something wrong or right, whether you're thinking something destructive or constructive, whether you're thinking something evil or good, if you are assuming them to be true, then eventually you are dwelling on them and they will ultimately become facts. And in the process, your goals are not going to become your facts. So, if you want your goals to become your facts, you have to work in accordance with the law of thinking. And wrong, destructive, and evil thoughts are against the law of thinking. When he wishes to overcome a sinful condition, here the author tells us how to overcome the sinful thoughts in our mind. When he wishes to overcome a sinful condition, he does not waste time wrestling with the fact. He does not waste time wrestling with the fact. Why? Because again, wrestling with the facts and figures is like inviting the law of resistance in your life. You are actually creating resistance by wrestling with the fact. Instead, what you should do, but corrects, forsakes, forgets, forgives. Corrects. How does he correct? By forsaking, forgetting, and forgiving. The idea that started it, the idea that prompted it. This is the weed in the garden that must be pulled out, top, stalk, root, and all to be completely discarded. In this chapter, the author has compared sinful thoughts with weeds in the garden. Let's say in the beautiful garden of our mind, there are sinful thoughts. It's just like in the real garden that you have weeds growing all over your garden, and the weeds are not giving any chance to the beautiful flowers in your garden to grow. Why does that happen? You pull out the weeds and yet you don't see your flowers growing. You still don't see the beauty of your garden. In fact, over a certain time you will see more and more of the weed. So what do you need to do to pull out the weed from your garden? You just can't pull out the weed. No, you have to pull it all out, including the roots. Only then can you guarantee that you have no more weed left in the garden, no more space for the weed to grow. And then you can put in seeds of beautiful flowers in your garden. And with a short passage of time, you will see a beautiful blossoming garden. But if you just cut the top of the weed And if you still keep on planting seeds of beautiful flowers, what you'll see over time is that the weeds have dominated your garden. They have started growing all over again. So you have to pull them out from the root, completely, totally pull it out. That's exactly what happens in the beautiful garden of our mind. Sinful thoughts remain there as weeds, just the way you have weeds in the garden. Later on, the author compares these sinful thoughts and gives us the example of the weed in the garden. And now we have to figure out, with the example of weeds in the garden, on how we are going to actually pull out our sinful thoughts completely from the root and replace it with beautiful thoughts. The author says, like weeds in your garden, if you go about and cut them off each time they appear before your eyes. They may be cut off for a time, but because they were not pulled out, root and all, they will sprout again. Weeds must be pulled out completely to be destroyed and permanently removed. We have to permanently remove the sinful thoughts. In another part of the same chapter, the author says, weeds do not remove themselves in time, which is true. In the same way, sinful thoughts in our mind will not remove themselves with time. Instead, they will increase and grow stronger until they choke out the flower. So, if we do not take care of the sinful thoughts in our mind right now, they will also grow big in the garden of our mind and choke out the beautiful dreams and goals. Excuse me. The same thing is true of our sinful thoughts. In the garden of our memory, they must be plucked out, cast out, and destroyed so that only flowers of healthy and happy thoughts may grow. So, how do we grow flowers of happy and healthy thoughts in the garden of our mind? By forgiving, forsaking, and forgetting the thought that actually prompted the sin in the first place. Now, after understanding sinful thoughts and sin, we have understood why we need to forgive, to raise our level of vibration to a substantial level. Nothing can prevent us from forgiving others. Okay, if we pull out all the sinful thoughts from our consciousness, it will become so easy to forgive anybody and everybody, and over time it's going to become our habit. Thereby we will be in high vibration all the time. Now, the next thing that we need to understand to practice the law of forgiveness is the concept of guilt. And the reason why we are studying is because guilt is the worst emotion that you can let reside in your consciousness. Let's go ahead and see why we need to replace guilt and many other negative emotions. And this is based on a scientific research. The author informs us Professor Gates of the Psychological Laboratory of Washington, D.C., in an experiment testing the emotions and the reactions of the body, found some interesting results. He found some 40 bad emotions and many more that were good. Of all the bad emotions, he said, listen to this, the reaction of guilt was the worst. This is the reason why we need to replace the emotion of guilt. This deduction was gained by a chemical analysis of the perspiration taken from the body. A small quantity of perspiration was taken from each emotional reaction and tested. The bad emotion showed a strong acid test. Now, if you put some acid on your flesh, you know what will happen. The acid will burn, and if allowed to continue to burn, will prove painful and destroy the very tissue of your flesh. It is just such a chemical reaction that is affecting the tissue and organism of the body when these destroying thoughts are allowed to harbor within and generate a poison which weakens and eventually destroys the body. There you go. Now we have a scientific understanding on why we should get rid of the emotion of guilt. So in this experiment, Professor Gates listed 40 bad negative emotions, and he listed many more emotions that were good. But every time the reaction of a bad thought was tested, whenever the perspiration was tested from the reaction of any bad thought, it always showed strong acid. And in the emotion of guilt, the results were the worst. So, from this scientific experiment, we should understand that right now, what we need to do, if we have a scientific understanding, is to get rid of the emotion of guilt and many other negative emotions which lower our vibration. This lowering of vibration actually, makes us lethargic and not really work on our goals. Instead, what it does is it takes our mind and makes it focus on the thing that I did, maybe years and years back, and now I'm seeking for forgiveness from that thought, from that person, or from that condition. And I'm like, when will I be forgiven? And this is causing guilt inside of me. I will keep on entertaining the feeling of guilt until I'm forgiven. So the law of forgiveness says that once you forgive, you are automatically forgiven. Now, we cannot argue with this law because the law is impersonal. It just works that way. And we need to work just the way the law functions. When the law guarantees us that once we forgive, once we take the action and forgive others, in the process, we will be forgiven. So when we practice the law of forgiveness, the emotion of guilt also fades away when we pull out all the sinful thoughts from our consciousness and replace them with good thoughts of harmony, peace, perfect health, good business, giving more and more in our products and services to our customers, making our customers more and more happy with each passing month. These are the thoughts that we need to dwell in, not on the thoughts that I seek forgiveness and I shall be forgiven one day. That person did something wrong to me. She hurt me. She should be coming and saying sorry to me. He should be coming and saying sorry to me. Let go of all of these expectations. Harboring these expectations in yourself is working against the law. The law does not care what you're thinking. The law will give you exactly what you're thinking. It's not going to say that, you know what, okay, you're working against the law of forgiveness, so let me teach you what the law of forgiveness is. No, people have tried and tested the law of forgiveness, and we are so happy and thankful right now that Raymond Hollywell has actually accounted so many different things, experience his own experiences, nature's philosophy, scientific experiments to show us that what we need to do is we need to get rid of sinful thoughts and we need to start forgiving people and not expect someone to forgive us, right? Because when we forgive, we are automatically forgiven by the law. We do not have to care what others are doing. We do not have to care about if somebody cheated us, ran away, and is now running even a more successful business than us. Somebody who stole our idea. Let them go. The law will take care of them. They are working with a certain specific mindset. They are using the laws in a certain way. The law will give them exactly what they are giving to the universe, their thought, their time, their skills, everything. So you need to understand that. And based on this understanding, you need to forgive them. You are forgiving them so that your level of vibration raises to the level of vibration of the man or the woman that you want to be. Your job is to accomplish your goal and become better and better every day. Your job is to keep on forever expanding and forever expressing yourself, not to waste your time on thinking who should be forgiving you and who you should be asking forgiveness from, and who are the people who owe you forgiveness. Get rid of all of these thoughts. You are working with a sinful thought that is not in harmony with the law of forgiveness. Okay. So now that we have understood what are sinful thoughts by understanding the real meaning of sin, now that we have understood that we need to replace guilt, the emotion of guilt, because it is the worst emotion that we can let harbor inside our consciousness. There are many more negative emotions, which Napoleon Hill has pointed out in his famous book, Think and Grow Rich. Go and read that chapter. Go and read about all the 7 major negative emotions. Replace them with 7 major positive emotions. Let go of the feeling of guilt inside of you. Find out what it is. What are the thoughts, conditions, or people who are making you guilty, something from your past. Never ever feel guilty about anything that you have done. You at that time were not working in accordance with the laws of the universe. So you ended up doing something that what you could call right now something that created the feeling of guilt inside of you. You committed sin. Let's be straightforward. Now, what you can do is you can replace those thoughts with new thoughts of harmony, peace, rejoicing in others' happiness. All these beautiful thoughts. Forgive everybody who's ever hurt you. Okay, don't expect them to come to you and ask for forgiveness. Your job is to forgive them. If they ever come and ask for forgiveness, you know already that you've already forgiven them. So you will react and you will forgive them. So what you need to do is you need to practice forgiveness. And in the process, you will be forgiven by the law. That's a law, immutable. You can only work with it but you cannot change it. All right. Now comes the time to take the U turn after understanding sinful thoughts and after understanding the emotion of guilt. The author says a man who is great enough to forgive is always greater than the forgiven. He is superior, he is greater than his adversity. The quality of forgiveness must be as limitless as faith, hope, and love. This is what you need to practice from tomorrow onwards, or maybe from today onwards, right now, when the show gets ended. You can replay this show and get these concepts cleared once again, or you can start practicing it right now while the show is going on. Think about faith. How do you deal with faith in your consciousness? Think about hope. How do you bring about the emotion of hope? How do you feel about hope? Think about love. When you think about hope, faith, and love, you are always limitless. You always want to expand more on your faith. You want to give more and more love to people. You want to hope for bigger things to become a part of your life, right? So when we're thinking about faith, hope, and love, we are thinking in a limitless fashion. In the same way, when we think about forgiveness, it should be in a limitless fashion. So with faith, hope, and love, add forgiveness to your habit every day, that you will be limitless in your forgiving powers. You will forgive anybody and everybody because now you have a clear philosophical and a scientific understanding on why it is that you need to follow the law of forgiveness. The law reads that certain ideas must be dissolved and cleared from the mind in order that other ideas or new ideas of a different character may replace them. Now, we need to dissolve the old ideas. We need to clear the emotion of guilt. Only in this process, only by following this process, will we be able to easily assume the feeling of our wish fulfilled. If you are having difficulty in assuming the wish, in assuming your wish fulfilled, it means somewhere or the other you are dealing with negative emotions. That's why you're not able to freely assume the feeling of your wish already fulfilled. This is the barrier. You need to let go. You need to forgive, forsake, and forget the event, the person. That's exactly what you need to do. Take action and start forgiving. The author says everyone must at some time walk the path of forgiveness. We must learn to live this law. We must learn to live this law, which means forgiveness should be our habit and it should be limitless. Only as we forgive are we forgiven. We must put forth this first effort. The first effort is that we must forgive. Our willingness must open the way for our forgiveness. Unless we prove this law by living it, we cannot hope to gain the bigness of character that life requires. So, what do we learn from the law of forgiveness over here? The law says only as we forgive are we forgiven. So, you take action and you forgive others. In the process, you will realize that you have also been forgiven. In this way, you will start removing all the sinful thoughts from the beautiful garden of your mind, and automatically the emotion of guilt and all other negative emotions will be replaced by beautiful emotions of your goals, of the accomplishment of all your dreams. That is what you need to do. Start forgiving. A sin forsaken is a sin forgiven. The law of forgiveness. It says that too. And now, towards the end, I told you that I will be suggesting two exercises that you can start applying from tomorrow onwards, first thing in the morning, to practice the law of forgiveness. The first thing that I want you to do is right after you write your affirmations for the day, choose three people to forgive. These three people could be someone from your past, or these three people could be someone who are bothering or creating problems for you right now in your business, in your personal affairs, or anything. Choose any three people and forgive them the first thing in the morning when you write your affirmations. Once you're done writing your affirmations, you see, when you're writing your affirmations, you are generating the feeling and you're holding onto the feeling of your wish fulfilled. So when you become the man or the woman that you want to be and run the business that you've always wanted to run, or scale the business that you've always wanted to scale up high, also instill the feeling that that man or that woman is all forgiving. You are forgiving anything and everything. And in that vibration, what you do is you forgive three people every day. Now, forgiving these three people means anytime you hear the news of their accomplishment, it will not produce a sizzle in your thoughts. In fact, you will rejoice in their success. It doesn't matter what they did to you in the past. It doesn't matter what they said to you in the past. It doesn't matter if they cheated you or not. What you will do is you will bless them who have hurt you. In the process, you are also applying the law of non resistance, if you remember from the previous episode. So forgive three people every day. And there is a very good prayer in The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. In the chapter, How to Use the Subconscious for Forgiveness, there is a section called Technique for Forgiveness. And there is a small prayer over there, and you can recite that prayer thrice by inserting the name of the three people who you want to forgive. Do this every day, first thing in the morning, right after you write your affirmations, and see what changes you see in yourself, in your thoughts, and in your outside world after about 3 weeks or maybe after a month. You will definitely see a change. So start doing it from tomorrow onwards. And if possible, tonight before going to bed, watch the replay of this video once again to get a clear understanding on sinful thoughts, on the real meaning of sin, the emotion of guilt, and how to apply the law of forgiveness in your life. That's it for me for today. Over to you, Sukhveer. What else do you have to say about the law of forgiveness?
Wonderful, Shaker. The moment you said, like there is a prayer in the power of subconscious mind, like my hand went to the bookshelf and I just take it out there. I said, let's do not wait and share what is written over there. And if some of you might have the book, some of you may not have the book, but that's fine. So there is a techniques for forgiveness, and authors wrote a prayer, and it is like this. He said, I fully and freely forgive. Then you write the name of the person. I release him or her mentally and spiritually. I completely forgive everything connected with the matter in question. I'm free and he or she is free. It is a marvelous feeling. Now, some of you are going to read this literature and you're going to say that, oh, now how it will change me. You don't have to worry how it will change you, because that's the common error you can make, right? Because many people, when they start practicing this, the personal development techniques that we are mentioning here, and in fact, the U-turn idea that we are mentioning here, the only time when you will succeed in getting the desired outcome out of these ideas will be when you do not question how this idea or this law will work. When you question that how this will change me, what will happen, at that time you are unconsciously not trusting the process, not trusting the law. So what you have to do is simply put yourself into the trust of the information and just let it go, completely abandon. And there are two more things that I would love to share before we wrap up the session. You know, Shekhar, when you was talking about this love and concept, so I was looking at there's a board over there, which is a sticky board where I just paste some of the notes that I make some days. And I have a great, a very small three lines from Wayne Dyer, and I absolutely love them, whenever I read them. But when we were discussing it today, law of forgiveness, I thought, wow, maybe Wayne Dyer has law of forgiveness in his mind, when he might have thought about these lines. So I want to share these lines with you before we move to the last very important concept. He said, where there is hatred, let me sow love. I repeat, where there is hatred, let me sow love, and where there is darkness, let me bring light. It doesn't matter whatever the other person has done to you. You have to understand that on your part, you gotta send them love. You gotta believe that there is a divine universe that gives you everything that you truly and seriously desire. And now let's move to our secret genie, the stick person diagram. And I want to share a concept with you. Shekhar, just do confirm me if you can see the white screen over there?
Yeah, I can.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Now, some of you already know that whatever we discussed here, first of all, none of this is our information. We are great students of this information. We are so fascinated by these ideas that we love to share these information with you. And one of the great ideas that I have learned, Shaker has learned, is the concept of our mind that we have learned from our great mentor, Mr. Bob Proctor. And he said that if we want to change our life, we got to understand the mind. Now, nobody has ever seen the mind. Nobody will ever see the mind. But to bring an order to our mind, we must have a picture. And here is the image that Bob Proctor, learned from his great mentor, one of his teachers, and he drew it this way. Dr. Truman Fleet originated this idea. He said, let this big circle right here represent your mind, and let this small circle right here represent your body. And then, for the sake of understanding and personal development, we only talk about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Shaker was talking about good emotions, bad emotions, good feelings, bad feelings, and emotions are very, very important. Why they are important, you will find it out right now if you pay attention for the next couple of minutes right here. Now, understand that there is a abundant, absolutely infinite supply that is flowing to and through you all the time. Now, you can call this supply as God if you want. You can call it divine intelligence if you want. You can call it by any name that you have on your mind. And understand that this divine intelligence, this divine supply is flowing to and through you every time. Every time. Now, let's see right here, we have a situation. And usually a situation is a result in our life. Now, let us say there is a situation where someone has done something wrong with you. Maybe someone has cheated on you. Maybe someone has done wrong with you in business. Now, if someone has done wrong with you in business, you know what's going to happen? You are going to start thinking, like doubting yourself, like, why they have done that? Am I the wrong person? You're going to doubt and worry a lot. And you know what's going to happen? This doubt and worry at the conscious mind is ultimately going to produce a feeling at the subconscious level, which is going to be fear. You're going to become so afraid in your ignorance about whether I can do something in my life or not, whether I'm the culprit, which why I'm every one time the cheater, why this happened, why that happened. And when someone is feeling fear, they are in a very anxious state. They are feeling so bad, and nobody share their anxiety. And somebody is feeling anxious, anxiety, they suppress it. And when the anxiety is suppressed, it cannot be expressed, then your body go on to this ease. That means your body doesn't feel good. And when you are in that state, that ultimately turn out and become depression. Now, right there, what I have shown you, it is the road to ruin your own life. And many people follow that road because they have no conscious awareness about what the hell they are doing. And that all starts with letting what somebody else has said to stay in your mind. And this is the reason why people in their 20s and in fact in their 30s are getting strokes these days. They are getting heart attacks these days. You know why? Because they are just suppressing every emotion inside them. And the law of forgiveness helps you to express it, to open up yourself to the possibility of abundance, to open up yourself to the possibility of the great that is available out there for you. And you know what happened? When you build an understanding over there, you got to study. You have to gather knowledge, and to gather knowledge, you have to study. And when you study, you know what happens? You develop an emotion of faith. And that emotion of faith is expressed in the body as a form of well being. And well being is always expressed, it is never suppressed. Have you seen any person who is happy and say that, I'm happy? That person will express it in his feeling, in his words, and that's where we have to go. And the only path to go on the other side is to understand that you have to apply the law of forgiveness that we have shared with you today. And to apply that law, you just simply have to let go, allow your feelings to flow freely. Do not block yourself. And you block yourself when you keep resentment, when you keep bad feeling, when you keep bad emotions that you have for someone. Just simply let them go. Practice what Shaker told you. Every day when you wake up in the morning, when you finish your gratitude or when you finish your affirmation, sit down on a chair or maybe on a sofa or on the floor, wherever you want to sit. Play a good music in the background. Close your eyes and simply say that I forgive everything, everyone. It doesn't matter whatever they have done to me. You just simply practice these things and understand that when you are forgiving them, it's not about them, it's about you. Because you are the center of energy from where this divine power is flowing every time. And when you are keeping resentment, there is a block in your energy flow. And when I say block, that doesn't mean that energy got stuck up. That means the energy is moving in the wrong direction to you. So you got to let it go and let the energy flow in the right direction and in a full flow. And you can practice it by simply practicing what Shaker mentioned with you over there, that is mentioned here in Joseph Murphy's book. You can simply sit down, relax every day in the morning, write down the name of three people, send them love, forgive them. Or, as I told you, there is a surprise for you. So later on, when we will update this YouTube video, all the description, I will put up a link over there, which will be for a forgiveness meditation. And if some of you are having a very hard time, forgiving someone, or you're having a very hard time, you're going through a bad patch, we will recommend you that straight for 3 months, every single morning when you wake up, refresh yourself and listen to that meditation. And then just simply go with the flow. In the flow, you will find the divine God, which is going to help you to achieve everything and anything that you want to achieve. And now I'm going to bring this session to a close with the poem that author has mentioned at the end of the chapter. And it is about forgive. He said, that slight misdeed of yesterday, why should it mar today? You ask yourself this question. Something that has happened yesterday, why I let it bother me today? The thing he said, the things you did have long since passed away. For yesterday was but a trial. Today you will succeed. And from mistakes of yesterday will come some noble deed. Forgive yourself for toughness. Do not condemn the past, for it is gone with its mistake. There's memory cannot last. Forget the failure and misdeeds. From such experience, rise. Why should you let your head be bowed? Lift up your heart and eyes. It means you simply gotta stand tall and tell yourself, I'm worthy. I'm God's highest form of creation, and I'm capable of doing and achieving whatever I want to achieve. And the laws are there to help you, and the laws are there to support you. And continue reading the law of forgiveness for the rest of the whole week, because next Thursday, when we will be back in the U-turn, we will have another powerful law for you. And make sure that if you love this episode, if you love this information, go ahead and share it with your friends. Invite your family, invite your friends, or maybe, post it on your Facebook that every Thursday I'm attending a movie. Do not tell everybody what that movie is. Bring them live there. Host a party at your home, and the party might be the U-turn party. Bring your friends, bring your family, watch this video together every Thursday, because we are not going to joke here. We are going to give you information that will help you to enjoy your life in a much better and in a much expanding way. And I believe if you keep attending these calls every single week, you're going to need a telescope to look at yourself after 6 months from now as you will grow in terms of awareness. And for now, thank you so much, Shaker, for being here. I absolutely, love the session we have done today, and it is just
Yeah.
going to keep expanding from this point onwards. and I'm looking forward for the next session. And thank you to everyone who has joined us on YouTube. And we are going to see you the next time. So once again, Shaker,